Hey, it's the Plushpaw here, and I decided to do a community post and YouTube short asking for questions for a mini Q&A. These are the questions, let's get into it. Will I ever do a platinum video on a GTA game, and if yes, which one? I don't care about GTA, that's just not really gonna happen. I don't even think I'll do any game review of a GTA game. Maybe one day I'll platinum Red Dead Redemption 1 for a video, but that's about it. The second question is pancakes or waffles? I don't really know. They're really even in quality to me, to be honest. And as well as that, both pancakes and waffles, it's a really brand heavy thing. Like if they're bad, they're really bad, but if they're good, they're really good. Um you know what? I'll say waffles because if you get like really good waffles, get some chocolate spread on there, melt it a bit too. That is honestly amazing. Try it. When will Ubisoft release Rayman 4? So, to those who aren't fully aware, there's been multiple confirmed projects for Rayman in the works, and one of them is possibly going to be a new original game. And I think this is going to be such a big deal when it comes out just because how desperate fans have become for a new Rayman title that realistically, I want to say at the earliest 2027, like, I think we'll get some remasters or ports maybe between that. But in terms of a new big thing, like 2027, 2028 maybe, um, I think it won't be too heavily focused on until the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake is out, but that's just my opinion and prediction. Best bird character in video games, go. I don't really think there's a ton of options, to be honest. The two I've decided on, though, I don't know which I prefer. I have Moonin from Brawlhalla because she's like really cool. I like the whole Rockstar music attacks theme. She's really cool in that regard. In fact, you know what? Now I'm saying it out loud. Yeah, Moonin's my favorite. I was gonna also say maybe Wingo from Captain Toad, but yeah, no, Moonin wins. What's my biggest influences for my content? That's honestly a really good question. I think that's kind of it's been mostly the same, but certain attributes and aspects have changed over time because if you look at my BioShock video, for example, I re-uploaded recently. That was from when I was like 16 or 17. I genuinely can't remember how old I was when I did that. Um, but I remember I tried to do something a lot bigger, a lot more creative, and that was gonna be like I was gonna try and do a whole mix between YouTube critic stuff and Family Guy, and I don't think that's gonna work for a lot of people, so I kind of dropped that. Also, it did feel like I was trying to force in some of the cutaway gags, and obviously, if I wanted to use my sonar in this kind of stuff, that would take a lot of time to like draw sets out, animate, or even just draw frames or whatever I would do for that. So I thought it's just not worth all the time I'd put into that. In terms of other inspirations, I'd say obviously the whole pick up a controller thing, that's very Catacross inspired, like the slaughtered or salvage thing he used to do where he'd be like, hello, I'm Catacross, and I choose whether a game deserves to be slaughtered or salvaged. That was kind of based off of that. I think that's pretty obvious, but I didn't think I was flat out copying it because I was trying to make the idea a bit more broad in the aspect of like obviously when you watch a game review you'll see if someone wants to like well, obviously if you like they say okay yeah you should play this game, you should pick up the controller and play it. I thought just take that and go really broad, really literal with it, um as much as possible. I thought that was good. I also just comedy wise would like to be a lot like Cadicrus as well, or Scott the Woz, or Media Brothers, where like obviously it's still going in depth, but it is a lot like it's focused on being quite funny as well, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the best with currently, like just fitting jokes in there. I feel like there's points where I think, okay, is this funny enough? And I just don't know where I can put a joke without breaking the flow of the video script. This has happened many times. But yeah, I'd say, yeah, like I said, a bit of Kedikarus, but not full Kedikarus, where now it is more focused on the comedy, less on the review side of things, which, it does work well for him. But for me, that's not entirely, like, I don't want to fully go down that route, personally speaking. So yeah, a bit of old Cad Icarus, a bit of Scott the Woz, a bit of Media Brothers. That's kind of where my inspirations are at right now. I also want to mention that for some reviews and maybe the occasional other thing as well, I do want to kind of do reviews that parody different creators, like obviously Scott the Woz, Nostalgia Critic. I actually near the end of this year, I want to try and go crazy with the editing and try to do my own like big Kid Icarus parody, like his big giant normal videos that he does now. I'm gonna do it for November. I'm gonna do like different launch titles for the Nintendo Wii. It's gonna be really fun. Um, so yeah, I just thought I'd also mention that I am probably gonna do parodies of different creators down the road. What was your reaction to that event on November 29th? Now, I did get really confused at first on what this guy was talking about. I did ask what they were talking about. Um, and they were basically just talking about the Fortnite event that happened at the end of the Simpsons season, where there was just tons of different crossovers. It was very cool. It was just wild and crazy, if anything, like with all these collabs together. Like you had freaking Hatsune Miku beaming while riding a Godzilla. You had like you jump on the back of Kill Bill's freaking her bike. Stuff like that. It was really cool. There was Iron Man. There was all sorts of cool collabs. It was just like just really crazy and fun. Um, I ain't got much to say on that really. I'll be honest. Roomy slays. Diane Foxington or Judy from Zootopia? Come on, that's an obvious one. If it's obvious, why did you have to ask it then? All jokes aside, obviously Diane Foxington's better out of the two of them. Love Judy, but yeah, Diane wins easy. Also, one of the few inspirations for my YouTube name was the Crimson Paw. I'll be honest about that. But that's the story for another time. If anyone wants to ask more about that, did Ratchet send a cease and desist? You know what? That was really funny when I first read it, and it still is funny. To those who don't get the joke, my Sona used to be a Lombax, like from Ratchet and Clank, but because of my college course, I had to make it original. Once the course was over, I did flip flop between whether I wanted it to stay Lombax or be original. The reason I had to change it though was because, funnily enough, while it wasn't obviously a cease and desist from freaking Sony or anything, it was actually because I was using it as part of my marketing, so I had to stick to the legal rules when it comes to like copyright and stuff. So because I had to stick to legal rules, I couldn't have it as a Lombax. I had to change it, and I didn't want to make another OC or Sonar or whatever else. Um, and that's part of why it's original, but I just prefer the original design now anyway. Oh, and there's also the fact that I just like the fact that I feel like I fully own it because it is an original thing and not from another series. Worst video game I played, I really wasn't sure about this one at first. Like, I just didn't know what I was going to say for this. Obviously, shovelware games, slop games, stuff like that I have played for whatever reason. Those I don't like to count. I feel like that's just too easy and not really that fair because of developer groups, budgets, stuff like that. Um, I think what I finally ended up on was Evil Dead the game, and the reason this is because there is a lot of things that could make an amazing game to rival Dead by Daylight. The thing is though, after like tons and tons and tons of hours, I was still really struggling, and that's not inherently the problem. I don't mind struggling in a game if I'm enjoying it. The issue is just the fact that why I was struggling. You see, like Dead by Daylight, there is a level system, but unlike Dead by Daylight, it's really unfair. You see, Dead by Daylight does have stuff like items in its blood web as you spend your level up points on characters, but it's nothing that big. Meanwhile, on Evil Dead the game, not only most of each character's abilities have to be unlocked this way, but an entire skill tree can be used. And in an online PvP game where you might have a new player, compared to a team of pros who all have maxed out skill trees, maxed out characters, there's a bit of a problem there. I think competitive gameplay advantages, if it's something like Dead by Daylight's items or it's minor, fine. You know, if it's perks, that's fine because everyone has 4 perks. With like slight differences in stats if they're leveled up. Like, it's fine if it's really menial shit like that. But Evil Dead just goes way too far, and to be honest, Like, Evil Dead the game feels like a game that was never made to be an online game. It feels like it was just put together as, well, it was meant to be something else, but then they kind of crammed it into an asymmetrical horror thing to trend chase, and it just feels awful. Like, if the Evil Dead game was an open world single player game, it would have been amazing. You know, like, plain and simple, I would have loved it. But what we got is just complete dog shit that I despise because it could have been something good. That's the end of the Q&A. I'm hoping you enjoyed this. I know it wasn't too intense, but I thought it was a bit of fun. There was one more question asked, just asking if I'd ever show my face, but I have in videos before. I genuinely wouldn't mind doing something like this down the road, like maybe I do one at the start of every year or something, or maybe I do one every few months, who knows. But for now, all I can say is like and subscribe and have a great day. Also, Happy New Year.